3 credentialed professionals signed sworn legal documents describing something that should not be possible. The only recording that could have settled the debate has been listed as misfiled in a BBC archive for over 60 years. They did not lose it. They knew exactly what they had. November 1960, Sauchie, a quiet former mining village in Clackmannanshire, central Scotland. A village where nothing happens, where the days are marked by coal dust and Presbyterian silence. That autumn, an 11-year-old girl named Virginia Campbell moved into a terraced house on Park Crescent with her sister and brother-in-law, having emigrated from rural County Donegal in Ireland. She was shy, recently separated from her mother in her childhood home, and by all accounts deeply unsettled by the move. Within days of her arrival, the house began to change. It started as sound, a persistent, rhythmic knocking emanating from walls and furniture with no identifiable source. Then objects moved. A large wooden linen chest in the bedroom was documented shifting across the floor without contact. A bowl of fruit rotated on a table. A side table rose and descended without anyone touching it. These were not the accounts of frightened children or credulous neighbors. The individuals who witnessed and formally documented these events were a general practitioner, a Church of Scotland minister, and the headmistress of Virginia's school. All 3 held positions of community authority. All 3 had professional reputations built over decades. All 3 signed sworn affidavits. Dr. William Nisbet observed Virginia directly on multiple occasions and documented phenomena he could not attribute to any medical or physical condition he had encountered in practice. Reverend T.W. Lund, a man whose entire professional existence rested on institutional credibility within the Church of Scotland, stated in writing that he personally witnessed furniture move in Virginia's presence without physical cause. The headmistress of Sauchie Primary School, Anna Owens, documented anomalous events occurring inside a classroom during school hours, observed by multiple staff members. These were not whispered rumors. They were legal documents with signatures attached. What happened next is where the suppression becomes undeniable. The BBC dispatched a crew to Sauchie. They filmed. That footage was cataloged, entered into the archive system, and then quietly reclassified as misfiled in 1962, 2 years after it was shot. It has never been broadcast. It has never been publicly screened. Requests under Freedom of Information frameworks have returned the same answer every time. Location unknown. The file exists in the archive index. The tape does not. 3 professionals risked their reputations to tell the truth about what they saw. The only visual record of those events vanished into an institution that has never once adequately explained why. What made Sauchie different from every other poltergeist case of the 20th century was not the phenomena themselves. It was who was watching. Dr. William Nisbet was a general practitioner, not a spiritualist, not a curiosity seeker. A medical doctor trained to observe, to document, to distrust what he could not measure. He entered the home of the Campbell family in November 1960 because Virginia, 11 years old and recently arrived from Ireland, was presenting with what her family described as disturbances. What Nisbet witnessed inside that house changed the clinical language of his report entirely. He described a large lump of coal rising from a bucket and moving laterally across the room while Virginia sat motionless with her hands folded in her lap. He signed a sworn affidavit. He did not recant. He never spoke publicly about it again. Reverend T.W. Lund of the Church of Scotland arrived separately. Ministers are trained to be skeptical of the supernatural precisely because their faith depends on distinguishing authentic experience from hysteria. Lund was no credulous parishioner. He observed the phenomena over multiple visits, including an incident in which a large bowl of tulips rotated on a table without any physical contact and without any detectable vibration in the floorboards. He too signed a legal document attesting to what he saw. The church did not endorse his findings. The church did not condemn them either. The church said nothing at all, which is its own kind of answer. Miss Margaret Stewart, the headmistress of Virginia's school, documented classroom events witnessed by multiple teachers and students. A desk lid opened and closed repeatedly while Virginia sat a full arm's length away. A blackboard pointer moved along a ledge with no one near it. Stewart was not a woman given to drama. She ran a school. She signed the affidavit anyway. 3 independent witnesses, 3 separate sworn statements, Three people with professional reputations, community standing, and absolutely no incentive to fabricate or exaggerate. In any court of law, this would constitute significant evidentiary weight. What it constituted in 1960 Scotland was a problem that needed to be managed. The BBC sent a crew to Southsea. This is documented. A recording was made. What format, what duration, what exactly it captured, those details exist in internal production logs that researchers have since located and reviewed. The footage itself does not exist in any accessible archive. The BBC's official position, when pressed across multiple Freedom of Information requests spanning several decades, has been that the material was misfiled sometime around 1962. Misfiled, not destroyed, not withheld, not classified, misfiled. The distinction is important because misfiled implies it could theoretically surface at any moment, which is a far more comfortable answer than destroyed, and far less legally complicated than classified. It has not surfaced. It has been misfiled for over 60 years. What researchers did recover were the case notes of Dr. A.R.G. Owen, a Cambridge-trained geneticist and parapsychologist who compiled the most thorough academic record of the Southsea events. Owen's documentation was methodical, and his conclusions were careful. He did not claim proof of the paranormal. He claimed that the witnessed phenomena could not be explained by any conventional mechanical means, and that the consistency of independent accounts across witnesses who had no contact with each other before or during the events was statistically and evidentially remarkable. His work was published. It was also systematically ignored by every mainstream academic institution it was submitted to for peer review. The journals did not refute his methodology. They simply declined to engage with it. Virginia Campbell herself was never interviewed by any major press outlet. She was 11 years old and she had just moved to a country where she knew no one, and whatever was happening around her stopped being documented the moment institutional attention was withdrawn. She grew up. She became private. The story was allowed to go quiet in the way that inconvenient stories are always allowed to go quiet, not with a denial loud enough to invite scrutiny, but with a silence deep enough to bury it. What was buried here is not a ghost story. It is a legal record. In November 1960, in the small Scottish village of Southsea, Dr. William Logan, Reverend T.W. Lunn, and headmistress Miss Margaret Stewart each signed sworn affidavits describing what they personally witnessed in the presence of 11-year-old Virginia Campbell. A school desk rose from the floor. A bowl rotated without contact. Objects moved in full light in front of multiple witnesses, with the child's hands visible throughout. These were not hysterical villagers. These were professionals whose careers and reputations depended on the credibility of their word. They signed anyway. That choice alone should stop you cold. The BBC sent a crew. Footage was captured, and then sometime between 1960 and 1962, that footage entered the archive under a classification status that has never been corrected. Not destroyed, not declassified, misfiled. That single word has done more work than any official denial could. A misfiled document requires no admission, no explanation, no accountability. It simply disappears into bureaucratic noise. Meanwhile, the affidavits survive because they were held privately, outside any institution that could lose them. What they documented does not fit any sanctioned framework of reality, and that is precisely why the footage has stayed lost. The BBC has never explained the gap. They never needed to. The silence was enough. Virginia Campbell grew up, moved away, and gave almost no interviews. The witnesses aged and died. The affidavits sat in private hands for decades before researchers located copies. What remains is a convergence of testimony so credentialed and so consistent that dismissing it requires more effort than accepting it. Three professionals with sworn legal exposure attesting to the same events, a film crew that arrived, and a broadcast that never came, and an archive that has quietly absorbed the only visual evidence for over 60 years. They did not need to destroy it. They only needed to make it impossible to find. What do you think they captured on that film? Leave your theory in the comments below, because the answers this case demands are not going to come from official sources. If you want to keep pulling at threads like this one, subscribe, because every week we dig up another story they hoped you would never find.